Recording also. Please you remind me whenever we start the session about the recording of the session. Okay. I have started now. You will see the recording option there on your screen on the left side somewhere. Okay. So you remind me because sometimes we forget to start the recording. So here you see, I explained here that the 1 to 6 we have the dice. Are you getting my screen?
Yes, sir.
And I want only one number, and when we throw the dice we get the one number on the face. So if I run this, first I remove this, and if I run this, I'm getting 3, and I've got 3. Now 2, now 3.
You're generating randomly.
Randomly, we don't know the what figure will come next time when I throw the dice. So similar thing, the random. If I put some sad seed here, any set seed number, if I write 2 and I run, I will get 5. Always I will get 5 if I run with this. You see here. Got it? If I change the set seed, I could get the different number. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yesterday we have studied few functions. Just I change my project here. It is the inferential analysis project. I changed that in the R fundamentals. Okay. So yesterday we have studied very few functions. Data frame, everybody understand what is data frame, how to access the elements from the data frame and dissolve. Okay.
Yes,
Is there
sir.
any doubt to everyone? If someone has any doubt, could ask me. No problem. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Can we go from the beginning part? Just the revision part.
What? Yeah, Esther?
Or from the beginning part. Can we revise once from the
Okay.
beginning?
Okay, I will revise
Slight
it.
revision only, sir.
Okay. Significance of R. R is basically the question. The everything is in R programming. And R Studio is the IDE, Integrated Development Environment, which is on the front. You could you work, and it is basically it is integrated with that R programming. Without R programming, we could not run the R Studio. In the backend, there is R programming is working. Does that make sense to you? Okay. So I will just again tell you few functions which we have studied yesterday. Just review I am giving 10 to 15 minutes, then we proceed for further. First function we have studied over the sub and G sub. Sub means the substitute and G sub means the gross substitution. So as I explained you, suppose I make one variable here. In this way I have this variable like taking 5 values. I will show you with the vector so you could better understand this. You know that there is nothing in my global environment at present, and I run this. Okay. So if I see the class of this, so it is a character class. It is not a numeric. Okay. Why it is character? Because I have written here 67%. I have to remove this percent. Then I could convert them in numeric. Okay. First I have to remove this. So what I will do, I will use the sub function, and I still keep in the same variable name x. So I am using g sub. Okay. And what I want to remove, I want to substitute. I want to, instead of percent, I don't want anything. So I just keep it blank. Even I don't use the space over there. And where I want this in X. Is there any doubt in this syntax? The syntax I write here. First is the pattern. If you see the syntax, you could see the syntax here also. If I keep here the pattern, replacement, and X. So the 3 is the main pattern, what you want to replace, and replacement by which you want to replace it, and the data or the variable. Data is variable is the same thing. Does that make sense to everyone? So I will do it. Now I will show you the X. What is X now? So X is, there is no percent symbol here. Is it clear to all?
Yes.
But still, if I ask about the class, so I will get the class is character string because there is quotes. So then what I will do, I will convert them in numeric. So there is a function as dot numeric. Okay. Understand this syntax, as dot numeric X. And if I again print X, I will get the number without quotes. Or if I ask the class of this, I will get the numeric class. Does that make sense to everyone? Is there any doubt in the G sub function? Okay.
No, sir, there is no doubt.
Okay. Next function we had paste and paste 0. Okay, paste and paste 0. So I will explain you the paste and paste 0.
Sir,
Yeah.
so in your system, the elements in the brackets showing in blue, but mine is showing gray color. Is this because of the theme?
Because of the thing. Because of the
Okay.
okay. There are various themes in the R.
Yeah. You have shown previously. Got it.
So we are taking X here for some. I take one. There are 6 elements I am taking in X and the 6 elements I am taking in Y. But these are some letters I am taking here. Okay. Then C. Then U. Then R. Then W. And then T. You know that that's length is 6 of both, and I paste XY. Paste X comma Y. I run this. So I'm getting this. Does that make sense to everyone? Is there any doubt? If I write y comma x, okay, if I want to put some separator between them, I could put any separator, and the separator I have to always write in the quotes. So I am putting the separator like hash. You will see I will get the hash between them. Does that make sense to you? Hmm? Now I want to collapse it. Collapse I have explained you in detail yesterday also. Collapse with a dollar sign. Okay. Is that clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
If I don't write anything in the separator, I just keep it blank, then I will get in this way. It will be concatenate. Okay. So this is the past 0 is also the same thing without if I x y do the past 0. So it is the without any space it will paste together, join together. Okay. Is there any doubt in past and past 0? I just explained yesterday in detail this collapse. In the video, if you see, I have written everything on the whiteboard. I explained it. Okay, Niyar. So you could watch on that video. Okay. After paste, we have a function substring. Substring. So suppose I have some IP address, like, but this should be a string. It should be in quotes. This is the IP address. And I want to select from 4 to 2 here. So it is the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 5 to 11 I want only. So I will write the substring. We have to write the first data. Then you see here, here is the syntax is here. X start stop. X is always the variable name. Start and stop. So I want to start from 5 and end with 11. And I run this. So I got to. Does that make sense to you? Is there any doubt in this substring function? Sita, sir, my s dot numeric is not
Yeah, sir.
working as it is showing NA. S dot numeric is not working. In the same you are doing what I have done here? The same? Okay, I will just see the PNG. Please you again run this script. Again run once more. Sita, from X, from here to run again. Up to here. Just run it again. Is it working now? No, it is not working. Just I see it. What happened? I know that. You have not given here X. Before G sub, you have to assign X. You assign X equal to G sub, na? In this way, you have to assign the X. You have not assigned here. Okay. You assign here X first. Then you do it. It will work. Okay. Just here X is missing. Someone else have any doubt? How do we deal with the dates, like categorizing the daily rainfall data to monthly data? We use the Lubridate library first for the dates. And you are like categorizing the daily rainfall into monthly data. So we have to grouping that rainfall through the group function with the dplyr library. So this would be on the advanced course. Okay, the R intermediate or R advanced, we will see this all things. Here the substring, anybody understand what is substring? Okay, and why we use it? I explained you yesterday also, you know, that thing. For the class interval, I explained you about the substring. We take the substring, then we add on and then divide by 2. And more function was there. Set seed I have explained you. Sample I have explained you today also little bit. Then replication is a function. I explained you that it replicate the thing. If you want if you want to suppose daily 9 times. You're getting the daily 9 times. Okay. Okay. So everything is very simple. Match I have explained you. Reverse I have explained you. Reverse, if we have to write down the reverse for this 1, 2, 5, 6, 8, 3. If I get the reverse of this, I will get the reverse order of this. Okay, 3, 8, 6, 5, 2, 1. Okay. We could create this vector outside also, then we put the name of that vector here. Okay, I am just created the vector inside and showing you this thing for saving the time. And here is the match function. Suppose we have X data. We have, I'm just giving with some numbers, so I don't writing here some character I am not going to write. I run this, and why I am taking
C, sir. There is no C.
I forget to write. And who is matching at third place? Okay, 5 is not matching here. Okay, 8 is not matching here in Y. 1 is matching at the first place in Y. 9 is matching is the sixth place on Y, and 0 is matching on the fifth place on Y. Does that make sense to everyone? Is there any doubt? Could ask me.
No, sir, it's okay.
Okay, everyone. And I could use the
Yes, sir.
percent
It's
function.
clear.
Yeah, Ishta. Once more.
It's clear.
It's clear. Okay. Now I tell you about the percent in percent X, percent in percent Y, and I run this. So it will give me the logical response, true and false. First is matching, 2 is matching, 5 is not matching, 8 is not matching, false, then 1 is matching, true, 9 is matching, and 0 is matching. Does that make sense to everyone?
Sir, percent in percent, what does it indicate, sir?
What? Yeah.
Percent in percent, what does it indicate?
The first time the position is indicating, na? The 2 is matching on Y at which place, which position, 1, 2, third position. That is showing the first position, third position here.
Yes, sir.
This 2 is matching in Y, third position, at third position. This 5 is not matching. This 8 is not matching. But one is matching in Y at first position. Does that make sense to you? Now, is
Yes,
it clear?
sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
It is
sir.
just showing the position. Okay. Or it is giving us the true and false. But if we want to know the which value is matching or which is not matching, what value is matching, then what we do, I write down the X, then I take the square bracket and I just run it. So I will see 2 is matching, 1 is matching, 9 is matching, and 0 is matching. Does that make sense to everyone? Now these are the values which are matching.
Yes, sir.
These are the positions, and these are the logical true and false. Okay. So this was all about the match function. You have to do some practice again and again, then you could get better understanding of this. Now, duplicate in the unique function I have explained you yesterday. That is very simple. Unique, for the remove the duplicacy, we use the duplicate function, and distinct function with the dplyr, that is very, very good function. I follow always that. Yeah, we could use for the character, but because of saving the time, I have just keep write down the numbers only here. Does that make, is it clear to you, Urmi? Yeah. You could use with the character also, no problem. You make a character vector and you match it. It will match. So is there any doubt somebody would want to learn more about the distinct and the duplicate which I explained yesterday? Or we go forward? Round function is nothing. Suppose you are dividing 29 by 7. So, Arnab, what I will get 4.142857. It is that too many digits after decimal places. We do the round off, na? We do in round off in mathematics. Please round off the figure. We say this way. The same thing we are doing here, we put the round and then after comma we put how many digits you require after decimal. If I require 2, I will write 2. If I require 3, I will write 3. Now, is it clear to Arnab you? Set seed is and sample. Sample is a function. Set seed is just for a seed for getting the again and again the same random number. Sample always gives the random number. As I explained just before that, I have explained that with the dice example. Suppose I take one, I have X like this, and I take 3 numbers from this X. I want 3 random numbers from X. So I will write a sample and data is X and I want only 3 numbers from that X randomly. So when I run this, I will get the 508 only. You look at here. I run X first, so you could see here better. I remove this all, so it will be blank. And I run X first. This is my X. Now I find out the sample X. Out of X, I want 3 only. I write here. Okay. And I run this. So I'm getting 091. Next time I will run, I will get some other. Are you getting this? Randomly, we are selecting 3 number out of 6. Is that clear to you? What is sample? Sample is always random. Rahul. Now, if I put a set seed before it, I set a seed over there. So as per the seed, the tree will grow. If you saw a seed of mango, will you get the apple out of that tree? What will you get? You will get the mango. So if you are giving some seed, suppose I am giving a seed 23. So I will get that particular random numbers, the same number I will get again, 910. If I run this again with together, or I could run one by one also, I will get the same number always. If you do, you will get the same number what I am getting in your system. Okay. If I change the set seed number, then I will get the different number. Does that make sense to you? That's clear. Now we see how to join two data frames. Yeah. Yeah. Tell me.
I was saying it's clear, sir. It's clear up to now.
Up to now. Okay. Thanks. So we have our third script. Before that third script, I will Now we will learn how to merge two data frames. Okay. We have to merge two data frames. How we would merge the data frames, I will explain you now. So I am making one data frame df1, which is the data frame. I am giving 10 observations. I am taking, I am giving id 1 to 10, 10 integers 1 2 3 4, and the age of 10 persons I have written here. Is it clear? I run this and I print it. So you will see this is my data frame. There are two columns only, id and age. Is that clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Next thing, I am making data frame 2, and there I am taking a column gender, and I am taking a sample. Sample means I will take the male and female randomly 10 times. Does that make sense to everyone? Why I have taken it as a sample? Okay. And replacement true, because there are two male and female, I have to use 10 times. So replacement is required there. Without replacement, I could not create this thing, because there are only two values which I have to repeat again and again for 10 times. Okay. And the second variable is the education, which is I am using the repeat function, replicate. And here the UG and PG I am repeating 5 times each. 5 times this and 5 times, not each, 5 times. UG, PG, UG, PG, UG, PG, in this way I want this. Okay, does that make sense to everyone? And I will show you this data frame. So it is the gender and education. Or this is the ID and age. Okay. And these are the same persons we have in the same sequence. No? First ID is female. We know that of this and this and this. So I want to join these two data frames. So there are various joining we have. If we have to join two data frames, and we have a same number of observations in the both data frames, then we could join the C bind. We could do the C bind, column bind. We could use the function column bind. We want to merge it. Merge these two columns in this data frame. Does that make sense to everyone? We will create a data frame where the data frame 1 and data frame 2 column must be merged. Is that any doubt to everyone? So I will use the C bind function, C for the column. And whenever you use the C bind function, it means the number of rows should be same in both the data frame. So you see the number of rows is 10 in both the data frame. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay. Rows number is same. I am merging D1, DF1 and DF2, and I am giving new name to data frame DF3. So I run this and I will print it. So you will see it merged now. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, condition you know for C bind, number of rows must be equal. Okay, that is the condition. Now we see another DF4. I am taking another data frame. In the DF4, what I am doing, ID 11 to 15. I am taking ID 11 to 15. Okay. And age of 5 persons I have given here. And the gender of 5 persons I have given here, and their education is also. So this is the 4 column in this. And I will print this. So this is my DF4. Is it clear to all? In the DF4, we have the similar column as we have in DF3. Is it clear to all?
Yes, sir.
Now I want to merge DF3 and DF4. The columns are same, and this ID will be add on here 11, 12, 13, 14. So it is the row bind. It is the R bind. We will use the R bind. Instead of C bind, we use the R bind. Whenever you do the R bind, then columns number should be same. Number of columns should be same. And the name of column should be same. Does that make sense to you? Okay. So I am merging these two. I am using the R bind, DF3,
Okay,
DF4.
sir.
Yeah. Yes, sir. DF3 and DF4 I am merging and giving a new name DF5. So I will show you DF5. So look at this. Got it? Is there any doubt?
So for R bind, number of columns should be same, and for C bind, number of rows should be same.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Sometimes we have a position when we have a different number of columns and different number of rows. Okay. The number of rows is not equal to and the number of columns is also not equal. Now both data frame has the different dimension. Then how we would join it? So there is a one column must be common in both the data frame, just like ID or whatever. Any one column must be common in all the data frame what we want to join. Only the column must be same. Key column it is called. And this column which is same in common in all the data frame, it's called the key column.
Just like we did in FoxPro, Visual FoxPro, there is same concept like
Yeah.
a keyword.
I will show you. This is the key column intersection. We have the DF1 and DF2. In the DF1 we have these IDs 1, 5, 7, 9, and here 3, 6, and here 2, 4, 5, 8. So I will show you. We have a different option. These IDs, these are only IDs. The common key column is here. I will show you different sort of joining. One is the inner join. Inner join is the intersection. I will get those observations which has in both the data frames, the common observations of both the data frame, the whole details of that. Okay. So I will get 3 and 4 only, 3 and 6, sorry, 2 observations. If we make a left join, so I will get these observations 1, 5, 7, 9. If I make a right join, I will get 2, 4, 5, 8. If I get a full join, then I will get this all. So I will explain you could better understand through the practical. We have to use the dplyr library. You have to install this package first. How do you install the package? I explain you. I have explained it or not? You just
Yes, sir. Explain.
clicked on the here and just click on the install, and just here you write the dplyr, okay, and then install. So it will be installed, and then we have to import that library. So we import in this way, library dplyr. It is the, we don't have to write the import, and in the Python we have to write the import, but here we have to write the library, then the name of the library only, and then you run it. It has been imported now in your global environment. On the RAM it is now. Now you could take the advantage of this libraries function. Okay, so I am creating two data frames. One data frame I have given the customer ID 126, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there is another column where is the product, and I have taken the repetition of toaster 3 times and the repetition of radio 3 times. So it is the 6 product I have, 3 toaster and 3 radio. Is that clear to everyone? I run this and I will show you DF1. So this is my first data frame. There are two columns, customer ID and product. Okay. Now I am making another data frame where there is first column, that is customer ID, as it was in the data frame 1, but the customer IDs are 3, 4, 7, 8 is there. And the another column which is not product, which is some other column, that is CT. And I have repeated Bhopal 2 times and Indore 2 times. Okay, so I run this and I will show you DF2. So you'll see here we have two columns. Here we have two columns, so maybe more than two columns, no problem. Okay, maybe 5 columns, maybe 6 columns, no problem. Here we have 4 observations, here we have 6 observations. And we want to merge these two data sets. So there is a one common column, which is the customer ID in both the data frame. Does that make sense to everyone? Through this common key column, we will merge these two data frame with different aspects. So first I am doing the inner join, which is the inner underscore join is a function, or this is the object, and you could write here anything XYZ, whatever you want to write. I have written there inner. Okay, you could write anything. But this is the function. This you have to take as I have written. Or this is the function of dplyr library. DF1 first, DF2 second. This is the left and this is the right. Okay, as I have shown in that Venn diagram, the left Venn diagram and the right Venn diagram. Okay, that is the left and right. And the common customer ID, I have to write in the quotes the name of whatever the letters you will write in quotes, and I run this. And then I will show you inner. Look at this. We have 3, 4 here. We have 3, 4 here. This is the common observations, common IDs. So it is taking this common ID inner join, intersection. So 3, 4, product and CT. It is written the both columns of both the data frame now. Does that make sense to everyone? Is there any doubt?
Yes, sir.
Now we join with some other aspect, which is the left join, left underscore join. The same attributes are here also. The attributes is same. This thing is same. There is no changes. And I have given the name left. I will show you left. and I run this. So it is the left join. The left join, if I show you the left data frame, there are 6, 1 to 6. So here 1 to 6. The elements of left product column is all elements we have, but in the right data frame, we don't have first customer ID, we don't have second customer ID, we don't have 5 and 6. So it will give us NA, not applicable. Does that make sense to everyone? It has only 3, 4, 7, 8 IDs in the second data frame. So whatever will match, it will write, otherwise it will write NA. Not available. Okay, everyone got it? Similarly,
Yes, sir.
okay. Similarly, I will get right. The same attributes are there, right underscore join I am writing. And I will run this right. So you see, we will get the IDs of right only. The right we have 3, 4, 7, 8. So 3, 4, 7, 8 IDs I am getting, and getting all the columns of 1 and 2 data frame. But whatever in the one data frame it is okay, which is not available, it will get NA. Does that make sense to everyone? Any doubt now?
No, sir.
Okay. Now the full join. And full join is very simple. That it will join the whole. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8. All the IDs now been joined. And the whatever the element is okay, it is not there, then it is NS. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay. Now there are two more functions, that is the semi and anti. Semi join and anti join. This always gives the columns of left data frame only, the first data frame. Okay. Semi is basically a intersection, just inner join basically, but it gives the column of the left data frame only. Okay. It is just like a 3 and 4 is the intersection. It is not giving the column of right data frame. Does that make sense to everyone? I will show you the intersection. This is the intersection, inner join. And this column is also giving the right. It is not giving the right. It's the semi. If you write df2 first and df1 later, does that make sense to everyone? I have written here, semi joins and anti joins the contains data from left side only. Okay, semi join having those IDs which common to both.
It's clear, sir.
Okay, and anti join I will explain you now. Anti join is a excluding the intersection which are not common. It will write only those IDs. One, two, five, six is not common on the left one, which are not matching to DF2. Does that make sense to everyone? If I write here DF2, can someone tell me what would the output now? Customer ID and CD. Correct. And 7, 8. Correct. customer ID and city, Isita, correct? And 7, 8 only. Is that clear to everyone? Actual date, which are not in A, first data frame. Okay. So this was our first chapter, basic syntax of our programming. Okay. So is there any doubt? You could ask me. No doubt. Okay. So let's we start our next topic, which is the descriptive analysis. So we start the next one, which is the descriptive analysis. In the descriptive analysis, we do the univariate analysis, bivariate analysis, and multivariate analysis also. So here we, in the descriptive analysis, we will study about the univariate and the bivariate only. Okay. Not the multivariate. It is whatever we have in the data is called the descriptive univariate or the descriptive analysis. Okay. Whatever in the data we have, whatever that is called what is we have in data is called the descriptive analysis. In the descriptive analysis, first we study about the univariate statistics. What is univariate statistics basically? Can somebody tell me?
Studying about single variable.
It is about this. It is summarizing behavior of data. Behaviors of data is called a univariate analysis. Univariate study is the study of individual variables, as the same name suggests. Okay. It's not always possible to go through entire data. You would rather like to look at a few summary points which would give an idea overview of the variable's behavior. Okay, few points you should know. According to that, you could find out the variable's behavior. If in a family there are 8 members, every member has a different nature and different behavior. Okay, does that make sense to you? In a data frame, we have many variables. Either we may have 10 variables, 25 variables, 100 variables, more than 100 variables also. Each variable have a different behavior, the different nature. Does that make sense to everyone? I give you an example. Some variables maybe have categorical, some may be numeric, some may be high value, 4 digits, some may be 2 digits. Age, if you take a column of age, there is two digit number. If you are talking about the income, maybe 5 digit or more than 5 digits. Okay, does that make sense to you? And they may be the whole data. If you see the figure of the data and you see the there are 2 columns having the same 2 digit numbers are there, and one is a column for male age, second is a column for female age. So the mean would be different of both the columns, maybe different. Their scatterness, the spreadness, or whatever the deviation we say, the dispersion is different. Okay, so there are many things by which the data may be differ, the variable may be differ, they have their own quality having each individual variable. So what we see when we have to understand about the variable. To arrive at proper summary statistics, we need to understand that the facets of the data we need to look to have a complete overview. First, we require the measure of central tendency, mean, mode, median. Second is the variability, means the dispersion. And the third is the shape of the data. Okay, so I explain you. In the central tendency, we know that it means the average or representative behavior of the data. We require one single value which represent the data. That is the central tendency. So we have the various measure of central tendency like mean, median, and mode. Okay. Mean, we know that it is an aggregate measure. I have explained you in the first class. X1, X2, X3 divided by the total number. Median, middlemost value when all the values are sorted. Mode is the value which is the most frequent in your data. Okay. It is mostly taken for the categorical variable. Properties of measures, we see the mean is very sensitive to extreme values. I explained you earlier in the first session. Median is not. Mean, median both take unique values always. We get the only one mean from the one data. We could not get the two mean from one data. Mode can be multiple values, maybe more than one. Equal central tendency does not mean similar all-round behavior. If you have the equal central tendency of two variables, it does not mean that they have the equal in all-round behavior. There may be, their scatterness may be different, deviation may be different, and their shape may be different. One may be normally distributed, another may be skewed distributed. So data values can be different in terms of spread around the central tendency. So we know that. I explained this. Measure of variability, I explained to you earlier. Range, standard deviation, variance, mean, absolute deviation, interquartile range, IQR. We know that the range is more sensitive to extreme values because it is the minimum, maximum minus minimum. Standard deviation, variance, and the mean absolute deviation are sensitive to extreme values as well also because it is based on the mean. IQR ignores the trailing values, hence it is not sensitive to extreme values. Mean absolute deviation as good a measure of variability as variance only. Issue is that it's difficult to manipulate algebraically. Okay, this I explained you earlier also. Central tendency and variability summary states give you an idea about how your data is centered and spread, but it does not tell us how frequent particular values are in your data. So for that, we require the shape of the data, or we take the histogram or the box plot for this. So types of shapes and numerical measures we have. So type of shapes, we have the symmetric, the positive skewed, and the negative skewed. Measure is the skewness here. If you see in this figure that the middle one, which is the no skewness, is the red graph, red curve. You see that is the normal curve. Here the mean, median, and mode are all equal. On the left side, you see the blue one. It is the positive skewed, where the frequency on the lower side near the origin is high, and later it is decreasing. So it is the positive skewed, and the negative skewed, the frequency on the lower value frequency is very low, and the higher values frequency is higher. So that is a negative skewed data, right model. Here I will show you that symmetric, you see mean, mode, median all are equal. I will explain that. The skewness, how your data is skewed on the one side, on the left side or the right side. If skewness is 0, then it is normal. The skewness lies between 1 and -1 and 1. If your skewness is more than 1 and the less than -1, then there is some outliers in your data. Does that make sense to you? You see that? So here it is the positive skewed. So in the positive skewed, this is the x scale, this is the origin 0, and the value is increasing on the right side. If we are moving to the right, the value is increasing. So mean is higher than median and higher than mode. Right? It is the greater than median and mode. Median is always in middle. You see here also it is in middle. Here all are equal, so no problem. So mean is always greater if there is a big difference between mean, median and mode. Then it is positive skew. Here I say that the mean, median, mode are all equal in the symmetric distribution and the normal distribution, but it is not possible in real world. Even no data is absolute normal. Real time. In the real world, if you see, no data is absolute normal. Even we people is not normal, absolute. We are in the range of normality. We are not a normal person. The normal person was the Ram, God Ram. So we say him that Maryada Purushottam, absolute normal. Okay. So there is no data which is normal. When we get the minimum difference between mean, median and mode, we assume that it is a normal data. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Negative skewed means the mean is smaller than median and mode. Okay. Mode would be on the tip of that, the highest frequency. That is the highest frequency. And between mean and mode would be the median. So it's very simple to understand. Okay. Now, we use the histogram and box plot for showing these shapes, visualizing the shapes. And here I have, it is not a histogram basically, it is the bar plot I have made here because for understanding only. Histogram is always near concatenate to each other.
Attached to each other, sir.
Okay.
Bars are attached to each other.
Don't confuse with this. Okay. So it is a normal distribution. If you see the histogram in this way, then it means that it is a normally distributed. If it is in this way, then it is the positive skew, and it is negative, then in this way. So does that make sense to you? After watching this, yeah. After watching this, watching the graph, you could guess about the symmetricity of the data, of the normality of the data. Okay. We will do it practical, but just I am showing you the theory. Then we do it all in R with some data set. About the histogram, you know that it is we prepare for the continuous data, continuous numeric variable. Okay. Too many unique values we have. There we make this proper histogram. And classes may be finer when we have large amount of data. This is the box plot. Box plot is gives us on the minimum value, the maximum value, the median, the third quartile, and the first quartile. The difference between minimum and the first quartile is called the whisker. This segment is called the whisker. This segment is also called the whisker. It is the upper whisker. This is the lower whisker. And you see these sort of points. These are called the outliers. Okay. So it does not show us the mean. It just shows the median, the lower quartile, the upper quartile, and this way. So this data, if I say it is a negative skewed data, I will explain you practically. We have three things. If you go to the doctor, he uses his stethoscope to measure your heartbeat, guess your heartbeat, how is running your heart beats, and then it check your what we say pulse through that hand. And third thing, blood pressure, your blood pressure. And then he diagnosed something about your disease, whatever the remedy is. Yes. The same thing when we try to understand the behavior of a data. we have to do three things. First, we see the center tendency. Second, we see the dispersion. And third, we see the shape of the data. So this three thing is required. Okay. And some peoples are, you know that some doctor, you have seen that the Nadi Ved, have you listened about that in the Indian Ayurveda or some Unani? You have seen that the Nadi Ved, they just see the pulse and then say you everything about your disease, whatever the remedies you are, and then they give the medicine. Even they don't ask anything from you, they just give you the reply. You are having this trouble, you are having this, and it's okay. They are specialized in this field now. They don't require any stethoscope. They don't require any blood pressure machine. They just see your pulse and then they give you the treatment. So this will happen with you after some time. As I know, as I see the data, as I see the graph, the figure, the shape of the data, I understand each and everything. I don't requirement about the mean, about the dispersion. I just watch the figure and I could say the so many things I could analyze about the data. It will come later with the experience. You will get the thing. So you could just judge the data with the figure only. Does that make sense to everyone? Yeah. Is there any doubt now? Now, whenever we have data, there are three types of deficiencies might be in data. Okay. One is duplicacy, as I explained you. Duplicate rows may be there. Second is missing values may be in the data. And third one is the outliers in the data. What is outliers? Can somebody explain me what is outlier? Yeah.
Extreme values, sir.
Extreme value is the maximum and minimum. The extreme value is always an outlier. Extreme values is always outlier. Yeah. What is outlier? The value which is very different from the rest of the data, rest of the values is called outlier. Suppose I ask you one question. Have you seen the Kabir Singh movie? Yeah. Have
Yes,
you seen
sir. Yes.
Kabir Singh? Okay. So, suppose what age group would be the audience of that movie? Like Kabir Singh. What should be the age range?
20 to
Young,
40.
young people, sir.
20 to 40.
20 to 40. And somebody else? 18 to 40, correct? Mohammed? And you have got the data. You know, the persons who are coming to watch the movie. And you have got the data and you have got 80 years age. A person whose age is 80 years, he was sitting in that movie, in that miniplex or the multiplex, watching that Kabir Singh. Okay. So it doesn't mean that he was not there. He was there. Maybe some reason. But if you include that value in the analysis, so it will misguide your result or not? Mislead the result? If you include the
Yes.
80 years. Okay. In general, it does not happen. It is a rare case, rarest and rarest, we could say that. Okay. So what we will do? We have to give some treatment to this outlier or not? Okay. So you have explained that in the chat box. The 40 years is the highest age. That is the upper limit. Huh? That is the upper limit of outlier. Upper limit of outlier. And the lower limit of outlier is 18 years. Okay. So what you will do? You could do the capping. Capping means the right side. Instead of 80, you will write the 40. You will change the value. You will substitute 40 at the place of 80. So it will come in the range now. Does that make sense to everyone? Is it clear or not?
Yes.
Yes, sir, it is clear.
This process is called the capping. Suppose there is 14 years children, child is the person is also there, one teenager in that movie. So we will convert that 14 in 18. Okay. So this process is called the flooring. From the right side process, if you convert the value, that is called a capping. On the left side, it is called a flooring. Does that make sense to everyone? So this is the one treatment we give to the outliers. Okay. We could impute the values with flooring and capping. Is that clear to everyone? Okay. We have three treatments for the outliers. One is if we have the outliers in one or two outliers in data, like 1000 observations you have and the one or two outliers in the data, then you could remove that observation. It will not affect your data. And this the two, if you reduce, you will get a 998 now, so it will not affect on your result. Is it? If you have very few, if you have too many rows having the outliers and you have a small data size, then there is a requirement of impute the values, and just like the flooring and capping. So you have an option. Either you want to remove the observations, you could remove the observation, delete the rows, or you could impute the values. So first imputation is with the flooring and capping. Second imputation is with the business logic. You could use your own business logic. What should be the value of this? And as per the mode, mode edge, you could put that edge over there. Or you could the similar columns, what is there? And the parallel columns are there are so many parallel columns, and you see the gender, and they have taken in the interval, the food they have taken, the samosa, whatever they have purchased, that entry is also there. Okay. So this sort of things, if you see parallelly and you use your business logic, what should be the age of this person? It may be the wrong entry also. Instead of 80, it may be a wrong entry. If he has purchased the peanuts, he's eating that. So 80 years person could not use the peanuts because of teeth problem. Okay. So many things you could use your business logic and you could write that thing. Does that make sense to you? So either we could flooring or capping. I feel the flooring and capping is the best practice in the outliers imputation. Okay. And how do we quantify the range of the outliers? And what is the upper limit and what is the lower limit of the outliers? So first we see the shape of the data. Is it normally distributed? I have explained to you what is the normal and what is the skewed data. If it is normal, Then we use the formula I explain you. If it is normal, for the normal data I am asking. If data is normal, then for upper limit, UL I am writing for the outlier upper limit. It is mean plus 3 into standard deviation. This is sigma for standard deviation. Mean plus 3 into standard deviation. For lower limit of the outliers, mean minus 3 into standard deviation. The value which is more than this outlier, this limit, upper limit, will be capping, will be capping, and the value which is lower than this lower limit of outlier will be flooring. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
Any doubt? This is the coefficient, it is the fix. If your data is skewed, it may be positive skewed or be negative skewed. So if it is positive skewed, then you will get only the right side outliers, upper side. You will get the data in this way. So you will get the outlier here. Does that make sense to you? You will not get the outlier here. But in normal data, you will get the outlier both sides. You may get the outlier both sides, here also and here also. Does that make sense to you? So you have to substitute the value of upper limit only. That is the Q3 plus 1.5 into Q3 minus Q1, which is IQR, interquartile range. 1.5 is the coefficient here. If it is negatively skewed, the data will be like this. And you will get the left side somewhere outlier. So lower limit you have to find out. Q1 minus 1.5 into Q3 minus Q1. Does that make sense to everyone? Yeah. We'll do it practical later on. If you have any doubt, you could ask me, no problem. Don't hesitate to ask the question. Okay. So in this way, we could impute the value of outliers. Okay. This is the outlier I have shown here only for the visualization. This is the outlier. This is the range is the. Now you see the implementation in R. Later I will tell you about the imputation of the missing value also. How we give the treatment to the missing values. Whenever you have the missing values, it is in the very few observations, then you could remove the observations. Otherwise, if you have the this missing values, then you could put the central tendency as per the data. If it is the normalized, then you could put the mean. If it is skewed, you could put the value of median or mode. Does that make sense to everyone? Now, if there is missing value, there is some cells are empty, or is the numeric data, not the categorical. I am not talking about the categorical. If there is numeric data, some value is missing, then you could put the value of mean of that column, respective column, and the value of median as per the data shape. You see the shape of the data, whether it is positive skewed or the negative skewed or the normal. If it is the normal, then you put the mean, and if it is skewed, then you put the median or mode. Is that clear to everyone? Yeah. And the third one is the business logic. Business logic, I explained you, we see the parallel columns and we see the value and then we decide it. What should be the value here? Yeah, somebody asked you some question. Class is always silent. I don't know why this class is silent. Hmm? Okay. Rahul, what is laptop? Katosis is a different thing. That is the tip of your data site. And that is not we have to study over here. Okay, we have to we don't have to study about the katosis here. We're not studying that. We're just studying about the skewness up to and what is required the univariate analysis. We are taking only those. So this was the theory. Okay, about the univariate analysis. Sometimes what happens, I'll tell you. Suppose hypothetically we are taking one example that uh, there is a suppose we take that we are taking a column time duration of car and engine failure. The time when the car has been purchased, the car we could say the how old is the car, you know, and its engine failure in the time duration in the engine failure at kilometer. It is in the kilometer. So suppose we have a after 3 years, the engine of car has failed, and the kilometer it covered at that moment up to 45,000 kilometers. And after 3 years, and then after 5 years, it is 60,000 kilometers, and after 2 years, it is 32,000 kilometers. Okay. After 8 years, it is again 60,000 kilometers. And this we are getting data. We are having this, and 10, the one car fell after 20,000 kilometers. Okay, and this is a missing frequency. Does that make sense to everyone? Are you getting this? This is the 8 years. This is the 2 years. This is 32,000 kilometer. This is 60,000 kilometer. Okay, and if I want to fill this with the respective center tendency mean, so 3 plus 5 8 plus 2 10 plus 8 18. 18 divided by 4 I will get 4.5. Is it clear or not? Is it right? 4.5. or suppose this is not a 20. If I write some other value here, it would be better. If I write, okay, it is 20, correct. Okay. So if I fill the 4.5 here, missing value, then you see the 32,000, having the 2 years, after 2 years, it's got the engine failure. And it is the 20,000, the engine failure is 4.5 years. So is it correct imputation of that value? Is it correct? You see the 3 years having 45,000. It is not a correct imputation. You are taking the mean of this and you are putting that mean. But it is not matching with some other. You see this with respect to other columns. Then there should be some other value. There should be 1 month, 1 year, 6 months, or like that. Is it clear to you? So sometimes we have to use the business logic. We see the corresponding columns and we see their similar patterns, and we see the similar patterns in some other rows, and then we find out what is the value here. And suppose here we get somewhere 3 years, somewhere 2 years, somewhere 1.5 years, and we see the mode, what mode we are getting over there. As per that mode we write here. Does that make sense to everyone? It is a business logic we use. But in a big data, there are thousands, millions of rows and the lakhs of rows we have. We could not do this sort of business logic. We could not apply by watching only. So we have few packages here in R, which imply the business logic and give us the result. What should be kept on there. Okay. So don't worry about this business logic. It's very easy in R. Okay. Whenever we do the practical, I will explain you everything, how we could impute these values. Okay. Be very careful when we impute the data. Impute the missing values, impute the outliers. Okay. So that is very important. Now, it's your turn to ask something if you want. Yeah. So, Esther, it's okay for today. Have you got it? Is there any doubt to you?
No, sir, no any doubt. Everything is clear, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, okay. Shayla, do you have any query? Yeah. Your voice is not audible. Can you write on the chat box? No, today we will not do any practical. Tomorrow we will start the practical. We are going to finish this session today here only in 2 or 3 minutes. Okay. Tomorrow we will do the practical. Today we have finished the last one also, a few things, and review the previous day few functions. Okay. And tomorrow we will start with the phrase. Okay. And Urmi, have any problem, any doubt, any queries? And Romiars, Farah? No. Okay. Nihar, it's okay now today. Is there any doubt? No doubt. Arnab, Prakhar, Rahul, Mohammed Sadiq, no doubt. Okay, thanks. Farah, you tell me. No doubt. Bhavani M, do you have any doubt, any queries? Okay. So I think it's okay for today, and we continue tomorrow on the same time, 5 to 7. Okay, then I will explain you about how to make a graph, histogram, and a bar plot for our understanding, not for the presentation in the report. There is some interactive figures we require, but that will not learn here. We will see for our understanding how we create a graph and we could understand the things. Okay, so thanks everyone. So I wind up it. Okay.